Okay, so this one's based on real events that took place back in the late 70s, early 80s. And it basically deals with the refugee crisis in Ethiopia, a country which at least at the time was in a state of heavy unrest. And people were trying to flee the country by the thousands. Now what makes this one interesting is that Israel got involved. And they basically came up with this kind of harebrained scheme to get people out of there. Or well, they called it a mission or a rescue operation, but the whole thing was kind of ludicrous. It's a plan that really shouldn't have worked, but well, let's just say it wasn't a complete disaster. And this movie follows the group of operatives that set out to actually execute this plan. They're the ones on the ground getting their hands dirty, risking their lives. And the group is led by Chris Evans, aka Captain America. And I thought he did a decent job here, as did the rest of the cast. The acting wasn't really an issue, neither was the story really. It's an interesting one for sure, and if you told me it was all made up, I'd probably believe you. Because as I said, the whole plan is kinda out there, it's a little bit crazy. But this is not a cheap looking movie either, and I even liked some of the score. Although I will say the score was kinda all over the place. Like stylistically it jumped around a lot. There are probably at least 5 or 6 different styles in this. From 80s inspired synth scores to string orchestras to classic Middle Eastern instruments and piano pieces. So yeah, not exactly what I'd call coherent or cohesive. But the score itself wasn't terrible, so I can't complain that much. Now here's where things get a little bit murky though, and I'm kinda torn. And that's when it comes to the tone and the general writing here. But let's look at the way the script is structured first, so the writing itself. It pretty much follows the structure of a heist movie, beat for beat. First they hatch this impossible crazy plan, then they assemble a team, then they start doing the prep work, and then they have to actually pull it all off. Now that's a good effective way of doing a heist movie. However, this isn't one, it's a rescue mission and it deals with a lot more serious issues. And in a heist movie you're supposed to care about the people doing the robbery, right? And about them pulling off this crazy plan. You don't really care about the actual money though. Well, in this case the money are the refugees that are basically facing firing squads. So the stakes are a lot higher and the subject matter is a lot darker and more serious. This isn't about a pile of money, it's about hundreds or thousands of lives. But because we follow the team executing this plan, we don't really get invested in those people. All those thousands whose lives are in real danger, those people kinda stay in the background. And that makes this whole thing feel a bit too, trivial, I guess. It feels like it trivializes the thing that's actually the most important part of the story, in favor of focusing on a small group of outsiders that come to the rescue, which is part of the tonal issue I mentioned earlier. But then there's also the comedy. Because this thing flip-flops heavily when it comes to the tone from one scene to another. It does this funny, entertaining, light-hearted Ocean's 11 thing. And then suddenly shifts to this grim, dark, gritty, brutal tone. Where kids are literally being executed in the streets. And I'd say that's probably my biggest issue with this movie. Those two tones really don't mesh well together. It's too far of a gap between them. They're basically two different ends of the spectrum and I don't think they really blended well at all. So on the one hand you have this fun, entertaining movie that I genuinely enjoyed. But then you have the actual subject matter and this grim, dark aspect. That has really nothing to do with being fun and entertaining. And the two just clash, and I think the end result is kinda uneven and a bit frustrating. That being said, I definitely liked large chunks of this movie. And I was never bored with it, it was actually fairly entertaining. But it has its issues, it's far from perfect, and I don't think it was very elegantly executed. However, would I recommend it? I wouldn't make watching this a priority. But it's also not terrible, and it told a story I think is worth telling. So maybe check it out, maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up or maybe subbing to the channel. That would be fantastic. I also have a Patreon in case you want to support what I do here. Or you can donate directly to my PayPal account through the link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.